We've got the highlights from Locker Room Cleanout Day, including Andrew Brunette with a controversial quote, Juuse Saros discussing his future, and what was the injury that kept Filip Forsberg out? That's on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I want to start with a special hello to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys and appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio.
Well, it's time to say goodbye to the Nashville Predators this season. It was the last day of school, so to speak. This week, locker cleanout day. The Predators gathered, took out all their gear. Graduation by Vitamin C was playing in the background somewhere, or Time of Your Life by Green Day.
I was thinking of, is it Boys to Men that sing that It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday? That's kind of where that was my jam for a locker room clean out. Yeah.
Gotcha. Did you have a graduation song?
Oh my gosh. My high school did. And it was the year, it was like the season of Michael W. Smith, Friends Are Friends Forever, which is the song that you should have picked. And unfortunately, I don't even know the name of the song we picked, but my class voted on a song that apparently is about taking one's own life.
Oh. Well, nice, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about hockey.
Yes, baby.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about hockey. Some interesting stuff from Locker Room Cleanout. As everybody knows, that is one of the times that you get some of the juiciest sound bites of the year regarding the season beforehand, stuff that you didn't really want to say during the regular season while games are going on, plus your most candid looks at the offseason, what needs to happen, some futures on players. We had a lot of that at the Preds Locker Room Cleanout this week, so we will dive into the headlines on today's show. First, want to mention today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, Ann, let's start with the head guy behind the bench, Andrew Brunette. Some interesting quotes from Brunette this week. There is a whole thing about Phil Tomasino that I think has made the rounds on social media.
Yes.
Quite an interesting thing about his future. We can dive into that at some point. But the biggest quote from Andrew Brunette, one that has kind of made its way around the NHL, people are kind of laughing at the Preds because of it. Some people are like, he's kind of got a point. It was his take on the ending of the Predators Vancouver Canucks series. Let's hear what he had to say.
I mean, for me, it's one of the most special times I've had with the team to go through that long. That's playing and coaching and being around them. So the energy was really high. I thought they had fun together. They had joy. And what they did was tremendous and remarkable. And I think there's a lot of hurt today. There's a lot of pain. Because when you're with a close group that way, you never want to stop playing hockey. And unfortunately, it happened the other night, and it hurts. It hurts me. It hurts. And Barry was talking about this, not a fun day, and it's a hard day. I think I said a little bit earlier, I've gone through so many series, and I'm a big believer the best of seven, the best team wins. And I've left many of them, almost all of them, where I believe that. I didn't, even when you don't win, the best team won. I don't feel that this time. And there's only one other time in my career I felt, we deserved a little better. And it didn't happen, but to be part of this group and be part of that energy and that enjoyment with each other was really special in my career.
So, best team in the best of 7 didn't win. Only the second time in his career that's happened. Thoughts, Anne?
Well, first of all, I think we can all agree that this really irked a lot of Vancouver fans because, they were, of course, the team that was favored going in. You and I have had very frank conversations about, roster matchups head to head where we feel like maybe Vancouver, a little stronger roster. But when you look at the actual series as it played out on the ice, this was a series of margins and small moments. And I think what Andrew Brunette is saying is that now, and it was, if you look at the statistics, even there's not even one goal difference when you're talking about things like expected goals and Corsi 4 was very close and all this other things. So you can look at it statistically. But I think what Andrew Brunette is saying, and I understand why he feels this way, is that Vancouver won this series based on a few small moments that were capitalizing on mistakes that Nashville didn't always typically make. So I get why it may seem offensive to some people, why some people are kind of laughing like Andrew Brunette doesn't live in reality. But I also think as somebody who watched literally every single second of that series, this was a close series. And I understand why Andrew Brunette says, look, I feel like we could have been the better team. Nashville was statistically the better team in a majority of those 6 games.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where, how do you judge a series?
Right.
Do you judge based on the stats? Do you judge based on, maybe the team that had the more chances, that were, controlled the pace of play and maybe just didn't execute? To me, you judge it on who actually wins. And you know what?
True.
I would say statistically, you're right. The Preds were the better team this series, but the Vancouver Canucks were the team that found ways to win.
100%.
They're the ones that, found a way to come back from, 4-1, 4-2 late in the game, in game 4. They're the ones that, with, a backup goalie, then the third string goalie. And I know Artur Silovs is a high rated prospect, but, basically without their Vezina quality finalist, found a way to win. Found a way to win despite being outshot 30-12 in a game. So I get what Brunette is saying. And I agree. The Predators probably did more minute to minute in the series. But credit Vancouver because they were the team that found ways to win 4 games before the Predators did. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's what you're talking about. Statistics can tell one story, but it's the team that can finish.
Mm-hmm.
And it is finishing on those little moments. It is capitalizing on the little moments. And that's something that I think you'll see the Nashville Predators mature in. And I think that's just one of those areas where maybe Vancouver is just a step ahead. And hey, let's just put it out there. Vancouver last night, you wild dogs.
Hey, they like coming back.
What in the what? In the what? Yeah, they came back and they beat Edmonton 5-4. And I think they were down at one point. I was in and out of that. We had a whole thing going on in storms here in Tennessee, in and out of the room with this, but they were down at one point 4-1. But like, take it from those of us in Tennessee that like can't count them out. And again, that Vancouver crowd, y'all are crazy. They were crazy.
That crowd when I believe I can't remember who got the go-ahead goal at the moment because I'm tired, but when that happened, the crowd completely blew up. So wild scene in Vancouver last night. Of course, and this is another first round exit for the Nashville Predators. As good as there was of a season to celebrate this year, the Predators still lost in the first round in 6 games to, a division champion, which is exactly the kind of thing that Barry Trotz said he didn't want to happen anymore. Wanted to get the Predators out of the mushy middle. So what changes do the Preds need to make moving forward? Let's listen to what Barry Trotz had to say about the future of this team.
We're going to be a little bit younger. I want to be a little bit faster. I want to build that top nine. I think I talked about that from day one. I think that's the way of the future. I think we had a real strong identity line in the McCarron line. They were really good, especially the back half of the year and into the playoffs. So we've got a lot of good pieces, and we got great leadership. Like I say, it's going to be a journey. It's not always going to be a straight line, because it's we're all human, and life's not always perfect. So, but this is the start. It's not the end. It's something that we're going to continue to build the next couple of years here.
Yeah, thoughts on what Trotz said about the future of this team moving forward?
It was so interesting in that moment for me, because you go back to what we heard from Barry Trotz at the beginning of this season. We want to get younger. We want to get faster. And I don't know that it materialized in the quantity that Nashville Predators fans thought that it was going to materialize. And so as I heard him say this at the end of this season, looking forward, my mind instantly goes to, how are we going to get younger? How are we going to get faster? Because we tried some younger, and, Juuse Saros and Phil Tomasino, those were some of the pieces that, Igor Afanasyev was up here very briefly. Those were some pieces that didn't necessarily pan out in Nashville this season. My mind instantly goes to the questions of, are they going to develop enough to get back, into the lineup, to get a chance to make Nashville younger, to make Nashville faster? And he talked about the top nine. How do you change the top nine when so many in the top nine are locked in?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's questions to me when Barry Trotz says this. I get where he's going, and I get that it is step by step by step. But I think the fan base was surprised by how small the steps were in some of those areas, especially getting younger this season. And it makes me wonder, what is it going to look like next season?
We heard him say that, that exact same line at the beginning of the season, as you mentioned. And it's funny because it seems like instead of getting younger, instead of, putting more emphasis on the younger guys, they went the other direction. Like they went more kind of veteran centric as the season went on. He mentioned, that fourth line with McCarron and, Kiefer Sherwood earned a spot, and Cole Smith earned a spot, and Jankowski came back up, and he relied heavily on Luke Schenn. And then obviously we talked about it yesterday, the bulk of the scoring came from Gustav Nyquist, who's about to turn 35, from Ryan O'Reilly, who's going to be 34 here coming up. Roman Josi, it's time to talk about him being 34 around the corner. And it's really at the end of the year, the only sort of under 25 that really had a big impact as the season went on was Evangelista. And eventually, that's fine for this year. Like, great seasons from O'Reilly and Nyquist. That it worked out this year. You got the first year of, this transition under you. You got the veteran leadership you were looking for. But eventually, and they're gonna have to find a younger core, right?
Right.
You're not gonna count on Ryan O'Reilly and Gustav Nyquist and Ryan McDonough to be like this quality of season 3-4 years down the road, right? Like you're not banking your future on that. So for me, I'm wondering if you're going to have to be more creative or more aggressive in finding younger players to plug in. And hey, if it's not, Phil Tomasino, if it's not Cody Glass, if you look at those guys, Juuse Saros, look at those guys and say, you know what, I don't really trust putting these guys in the lineup, then maybe you need to be more aggressive about going out and getting a player like that fits the bill, somebody that you can build around.
Right. And I think we expected to see some more younger faces. I think people thought we would see Joakim Kemell, and I think he was injured at times. And so there are younger players to pull from. But the process, I feel like people now are like, this is way slower to getting younger than we anticipated.
Yeah, and they've come out and said that they're willing to be a little bit overripe with their prospects.
Right.
Um,
True.
yeah. Speaking of being overripe with the prospects, hey, Yaroslav Askarov is in Milwaukee. So a lot of people are wondering what is going to be Juuse Saros' future on the team. We'll talk to Juuse Saros coming up here in just a second and see what he said about staying in Nashville long term and what Barry Trotz said about his goaltending future. First, I want to mention today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build your team. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. That's because Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. So instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's powerful hiring platform can help you do it all. They streamline hiring with powerful tools that help you find match candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed sponsors their job description the moment they sponsor a job. That's according to Indeed data in US. So start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer only good for a limited time. Again, claim your $75 credit now in Indeed.com/lockedon. Again, that's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. All right, and we are talking about the Predators locker room cleanout, some juicy stuff coming from the team. Let's talk about goaltending.
The elephant in the room.
I think Juuse Saros' fate, it's been an offseason topic for what seems like 3 off seasons now. 1 more year left on his contract. You have Yaroslav Askarov waiting in the wings. A lot of people want to see him take over sooner rather than later. What is Juuse Saros' future here?
Yeah, this is a great question. And of course, let's be honest, it was the question of the day when it comes to locker room cleanout. It is the question everybody wanted to know. Barry Trotz was asked about goaltending. So let's start with what Barry Trotz had to say on the goaltending situation here in Nashville.
Well, I think, I've talked to, Saros's representatives. I've also with Lankinen. He had a terrific year. And he would love to come back as well. But like you say, the numbers will dictate that. And then Askarov's now in the playoffs, and he's very close. But with goaltenders, you can never over marinate goaltenders. So if the right fit is there, then he might have some more time. But if not, we can go in a different direction. But that direction is not quite clear. We're going to do what's best for us as an organization and also for the growth of young Askarov.
So what do you take away from what Barry Trotz said there?
It doesn't seem like there's a rush to get Askarov up. And I think that's the biggest takeaway here. Now, I don't know if that's just posturing. I don't know if that's like playing your cards close to your chest or anything like that. But it seems like he's willing to be like, you know what? It doesn't matter if Askarov is in Milwaukee for another year. It doesn't matter if he's here backing up Juuse Saros. Like, he's going to be ready when he's ready. Like, we're not going to be like, this is the timetable. We have him, so we're going to make X move with, Saros or letting Lankinen go. So it seems like, my takeaway was that where Askarov is next year, it might just depend on what the contract situation for Juuse Saros and Kevin Lankinen is.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting that Barry Trotz said numbers will dictate it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in the numbers next season for the Nashville Predators. They have almost, but not quite, but almost $12 million between buyouts and retained salaries.
Yeah.
So there's a chunk of change already tied up. And I agree with you.
Some of that might be coming back if the Flyers buy out Ryan Johansson. Just saying that.
That's true. That's true. That would be a deal.
So that's $4 million off the books. But yes, agree with what you're saying.
So money will dictate some of this. And I agree. And let me just be very frank. I adore Yaroslav Askarov. Like, I want him to come to my house for American Thanksgiving. I just love him. But I am not sure that he is as NHL ready as many people in the fan base want him to be. Like, you have to call him up and be willing to embrace the fact that you are going to have some big growing pains. And it's not because he's not phenomenal. And I can see him being a phenomenal NHL goaltender. But I think there's going to be a huge adjustment period for Yaroslav Askarov. And I think there are a lot of people in the fan base that think, bring him up. He's a 1A. He can carry this team. And I'm like, and you also then have to weigh out timing.
Yeah.
Do you want your best goaltender in net while you've got, like you said earlier, 33-year-old Ryan O'Reilly and Gus Nyquist and Roman Josi still playing? Or are you willing to step back in net? So this is a giant, and it's something we're going to continue to unpack because it is a really big decision for Barry Trotz. But there is so much more to the goaltending, I think, than I think Barry Trotz is considering a lot of things. And I agree with you. I think everything that he says is posturing for other GMs and agents too.
Right.
And that's his job.
Yeah. Long story short, you never really know what you're going to get out of a goaltending. And Yaroslav Askarov may very well be the future of this team. Or he may be a bust. And at that point, it's like, you don't want to gamble the future of Juuse Saros, who's been a proven asset for your team for, 5-6 years now, even longer as, Pekka Rinne's backup. You don't want to, basically gamble away that sort of future. So yeah, I anticipate the Preds being very careful with this situation, and they're not going to have to make a decision unless they absolutely have to. And maybe that's determined by what happens beginning of next year. Of course, we talked to Juuse Saros about this too. He, of course, said he wants to be on this team long term. That was the number one question he got
over and over.
Until Ann Kimmel stepped up to the plate.
I am the voice of the people, y'all. So Juuse Saros, of course, and look, I'm as nosy about contracts and who's going to be in net as the next guy, but repeatedly asked in different ways, are you coming back? Have you talked to him? What kind of term are you looking at? Do you want to be here? Do you want to be? And Juuse Saros, he just is not a super chatty fella anyway. And he's not super chatty after the same themed question. So I step up to the plate with the hard-hitting questions that people really want to know the answer to. And so, friends, I asked Juuse Saros, can you just be honest with us? Was there ever a game where you seriously considered shooting for a goalie goal? And my friends, this is what Juuse Saros had to say to that hard-hitting question.
Goalie goal? Yeah, I think there's a one chance, but I gotta maybe work on my shot a little bit more this summer. But yeah, obviously that would be cool one day too. You did it at All-Star last year. Yeah, obviously there's no one pressuring me there. It was a wide open there, so that was a little bit easier.
That's right.
That's the man who's gonna try it again sometime soon, Ann.
Like, look, when, not if, my friends, when next season Juuse Saros sinks a goal in the middle of the twine at the opposite end of the ice, you remember it's because I gently nudged him to work on his shot. You're welcome.
There we go. Ann Kimmel, assist on Juuse Saros' first career NHL goal next year.
Let's
let it happen against the Blackhawks again. Another big topic was Filip Forsberg yesterday, of course, as famously kind of, became the meme on Twitter. Didn't do any morning skates for like 4 months. It seemed like, I think it was actually more like 3, but 4 sounds cooler. It was a long time since we saw Forsberg at morning skate. It was a running joke. He discussed his injury that kept him out, and it was a lot more gnarlier than I probably thought any of us thought. Cody Glass also talked about his up and down season, his future on the team. Those are some bites we'll get to coming up on the Locked On Predators podcast.
First, want to let you know today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. It is winner take all time in the NBA and, of course, in the NHL. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Did you really see Vancouver defeating Edmonton in game 1? Well, if you are feeling confident they're going to do the same in game 2 at home, you need to check out all of the options available to you on FanDuel for the second round of the NHL playoffs. So do that. Go check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
All right, Ann, let's talk about Filip Forsberg. As we mentioned before, don't gag yet. I haven't introed the clip.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of people just being like, either, I got to hear this now, or a lot of you are like, nope, I want no part of this. And
I think it should come with it doesn't get graphic, but if you are like somebody who visualizes something, maybe not so much.
Yeah. So long story short, Filip Forsberg detailed the injury that kept him out of most morning skates, limited him in practice here and there. Well, let's just get into it, Ann.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but I guess it was a shot block, a bone bruise, whatever you want to call it, that cut my leg on the ankle, and kind of had to just not put in the skate. I guess it was funny because I could walk and I could jump and I can run, I can do all kinds of stuff for warming up and everything, but the second you put the foot in the boot, it's just like somebody was putting a knife right back into that wound, obviously. And then in the start, it was a few stitches. We had to stitch it back up and try to make sure it didn't get infected and all that type of stuff early on. But then once that healed, we could take the stitches out. It was just about the pain management, and like I said, it was just, I'm assuming, bone bruise, I think, is the best way to describe it. But it's just, like I said, I almost felt weird at one point not practicing because I feel completely normal until I put that skate on, and it's just. The photo day, I think, was the only day that I was really out there, and I couldn't barely get off quick enough. Like that was, and I took maybe 3 strides just to get to my spot and then right back off. And but thankfully, guys did a great job in the treatment stuff. Like our staff, phenomenal job just keeping me ready to play. I mean, everything we did, and whether it was treatments, shooting it up before games, all the doctors, like stuff like that, I owe them everything. I mean, that was arguably, I played my best hockey of the season during those 6 weeks of the season when I was dealing with that, and that's all thanks to the medical staff. So I owe them a lot.
I want to be clear that I intentionally did not include his quote about what it looked like when it happened, because hurl.
Yes.
It was, let me just say that.
Turn it back a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I cut that out because I was like, if you are listening to this on your way to work and you're trying to eat your Starbucks, it might not be, for you. But just suffice to say that there was an injury on both sides of his ankle and a bone bruise.
Yeah.
That's all we have to say about that.
And he still had 94 points.
Isn't that incredible? Look, and when I heard him say this, I was like, mad freaking props. Because as a woman who has had to wear heels with a blister, it is excruciating. It is excruciating. And here he was with 2 cuts that, were getting gnarlier and gnarlier because of the skate on, and went out and played as well as he did. I don't know what they were. We shouldn't speculate on how they managed the pain, but I mean, that's significant pain.
Espresso martini before every game.
A little bit of Fireball.
Yeah, there we go. It works for us. Yeah, and it's tough because, like, in sort of other sports, like you can tape it, you can add like some extra padding, you can kind of loosen the skate or not loosen the skate, but loosen the footwear a little bit. You can't do that in hockey. Like that skate's got to be snug. Like it's got to be tight on you. So there's absolutely no wiggle room there. And yeah, hockey players, they're a lot tougher than us, and
incredible when I heard what it was, because we had been told during the season, like he has a cut that wouldn't heal. And I will say that for most of the season, Filip Forsberg had a little cut across his nose. And for me, I was like, I was like, maybe they're worried about like, me, I'm a mom, MRSA, I go right there. But that's not what it was. And then when he told us what it was, I was like, can we just go back to talking about the cut on your nose?
Yeah.
But he's going to heal up. He's going to be fine. He feels great. Not in a skate, which is wonderful because Filip Forsberg's scheduled to be a dad in about a week or so. He's really looking forward to that.
Yeah, could be worse, I guess.
Yeah.
And let's end by talking about a couple other players. Let's talk about Cody Glass here, because we mentioned at the top of the show, Barry Trotz talking about that youth movement, wanting to get younger at the beginning of the season. A lot of people thought Cody Glass was kind of going to be the centerpiece of that, sort of overcame, a not so savory debut season with the team last year to become a key cog. Played really, really well down the stretch. I think you and I at some point said like this guy kind of may be the future captain 10 years down the road.
Yeah.
And it's safe to say maybe perceptions of him changed this season.
Yeah, this was a rough season for Cody Glass. And here's what I will say. Tons of credit to Cody Glass for coming out and just straight on addressing a really challenging season. Dealt with injury early, kind of struggled just mentally with sort of a confidence and getting back to his game. We heard from him. This is a little bit longer clip, and we can kind of shorten it up if we want to jump in. But this is what Cody Glass had to say. And here's what I will say to you about Cody Glass. Cody Glass is very transparent. Like if you ask Cody Glass, he's very transparent and thoughtful in his answers. So it's good to kind of hear from him, his take on how the season went.
So could you assess what the season was like for you going through a roller coaster ride?
Yeah, it was tough. But, I'm grateful for it. It's a learning experience. But I think going into next year, I'm at that age. I'm at 25. This is, going to be the peak of my career. So it's going to be a very hectic summer with training and then getting married and stuff like that. So it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. This is why we play for, the pressure coming on you. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Cody, what about this summer do you want to work on specifically? I know that you'll be getting married, having a fun time, but what do you want to work on personally for yourself? What stands out?
Yeah, I think now that I know more about Bruno's game and system and stuff like that, I think working on speed is going to be huge. We're a fast team, so I think I'm going to, try and do as much as possible. I'm going to work with our trainers, work with mine back home, and I'm going to do everything I can to, get back into the player I am.
What do you think about the quote about him understanding Brunette's system a little bit more?
I think that was one of the big challenges, and it was something that Brunette talked about too in his availability at times, is that it was very challenging to get people to understand what he wanted and to get them to do it consistently. And so I think with Cody Glass having such a stop-start at the beginning of the season, I feel like he played sort of behind the eight ball as far as grasping the system and understanding exactly what Andrew Brunette wanted from him when he was on the ice. So I think there's an advantage now to maybe sitting back and watching it and seeing how it was more successful at the end of the season for Cody Glass. And this is the other thing I will say. I know there are people that have written off Cody Glass. I know there are very loud people in the media who have written off Cody Glass. Don't write off Cody Glass yet. Then now, this is pretty much a do or die season coming up for him. Yeah. But Cody Glass has been through some hard things, and this is somebody who wants to grow and learn as a person and as a hockey player. And this is a player I just don't count out of the Predators lineup next season.
It's a little bit of an uphill battle
It is.
for him
It is.
because, you do have all these players who have now spent a year not only learning Andy Brunette's system like Cody Glass has, but have gone out there and have been excelling in it too. So,
Right.
this is where you hope that you lean on Cody Glass being like a top 6 pick comes in handy, because maybe he does have a little bit more upside. He does have a little bit more skill potential than some of these other guys. And for him, this is kind of where you're going to use that. Yeah, like use your speed.
Right.
Work on your speed, work on your agility, work on your skating. You're going to have to, work on those intangibles. But at the same time, it's difficult because you're now playing a little bit faster, but now you got to have the mental side catch up.
Right.
You're used to playing game at one speed your whole career under one coach. And now you have a coach that's wanting you to ramp up the intensity a little bit. It does take a little bit to sort of mentally catch up there, and sort of be able to, kind of track. So, for me, that's the biggest thing. Like Cody Glass, like, yeah, I think he can work on his agility, can work on his speed, can work on some of the techniques that Andrew Brunette really values. But for me, the big question is just going to be, can he mentally catch up and play a faster NHL game?
Right.
That's going to determine his future.
Yeah. And Andrew Brunette was very clear that Cody Glass has to earn a spot in training camp. This is a player coming in, and you're going to have to prove it. You're going to have to earn it. I think Cody Glass can do that.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
We're all cheering for him. We love Cody Glass here. For sure.
Cody Glass.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's it for part 1 of Locker Room Cleanout. I'm sure there could be some more stuff coming down the pipeline very soon, so stay tuned. Tomorrow on the Locked On Predators podcast, let's just say goodbye to the season with a special takes from a hat. We will do that tomorrow on the Locked On Predators podcast. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Back with an all-new episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.